Welcome to episode 19 of the Press Forward podcast. I'm Nathan Wrigley, and I'd like to thank you for joining us again. And if this is your first time with us, I hope that you like it and that you find it useful. Maybe you'd like to make listening to this podcast a regular thing. And if so, you can subscribe to us on your favourite podcast player. This can be done by going to wpandop.org/podcast-feed. This week is important for WP and Up for a couple of reasons. Number one is that it's the 17th anniversary of the World Suicide Prevention Day. Around the world, suicide statistics are alarming. A World Health Organization study indicated that 4% of all those surveyed had had suicidal thoughts in the last 12 months. WP and Up's recent survey of 1,200 WordPress professionals indicated that the number is significantly higher in our community. Our community is at increased risk of isolation, loneliness, and potentially suicidal thoughts. WP and Up offers free support for those in need. We want to share that it's okay to talk about suicide. Asking someone if they feel suicidal will not cause them to take their life. If you're aware of someone struggling with their emotions, don't be afraid to ask if they are having suicidal thoughts. You can find out more about what we're doing over at wpandop.org/WSPD. The other reason is directly related to today's podcast episode. On the podcast, we have Carole Olinger, but I'll get to that later. Carole gets a special mention today because she's come on board the WP and Up team. She's going to be the crew chief of the HeadToWCEU project. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but it's worth further discussion. You see, some of the WP and Up team are doing an extended bike ride next May. It's departing from Berlin and arriving roughly a month later in Portugal, the locations of the previous and next WordCamp Europes, to be specific. The intention is to show that little changes can have a big impact over time. We're not athletes and are getting on with our lives whilst adapting them slightly to accommodate the time needed to train for this 3,000-kilometre ride. A project of this magnitude needs a fair amount of organising, and so Carole has kindly offered to assist us with that. So you might hear me mentioning her name around here in the future. By the way, if you want to find out more about this ride, you can go to our dedicated website, HeadTo.org. The Press Forward podcast is brought to you today by Green Geeks. Green Geeks offers an awesome managed web hosting platform that's built for speed, security, and scalability, whilst being environmentally friendly. Enjoy a better web hosting experience for your WordPress website, backed by 24/7 expert support. And we thank Green Geeks for helping us put on the Press Forward podcast. So I was talking about Carole Olinger earlier, and her part in organising the Head2 bike ride. Well, before that was even the kernel of an idea, I met up with her during WordCamp Europe, which was in Berlin earlier this year. We had a lovely chat with Barbara Saul from WP and Up about Carole's WordPress journey. She came to WordPress from the most unusual of places. Having zero interest or knowledge in WordPress, she attended a WordCamp with her husband, curious to see what it was all about, and she fell in love. This started a frenzied journey as Carole became deeply involved with WordPress, and within a matter of months she was hosting events and emceeing at WordCamp Europe. It all happened so fast. She became a fixture and was easily recognised because of her distinctive purple hat. New horizons were opened, and new career paths forged, and then her WordPress honeymoon came to an end. She decided to step away from WordPress for a while, to regroup and find out more about herself and her personal motivations. This journey included depression, anxiety, injury, meditation, yoga, exercise, a different approach to her diet. In short, she completely reimagined herself. She's now tentatively putting her toes back into the water to see what's next. And although this is still shrouded in mystery, two things are for sure. Her future will contain bikes and dogs. This, therefore, is a trigger warning that during today's episode we touch on the subjects of anxiety and depression. And so, without further ado, I bring you Carole Olinger. It's Saturday, WordCamp Europe. It's the final day of the WordCamp. We've got the party tonight. We're out in outside track number 1, where we've been positioned all week, near the stairs, watching people coming up and going down. And today I'm joined by 2 people. I'm joined by, I'm so sorry if I get your surname wrong. I'm going to try my very hardest. Carole Olinger.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Hi, Nathan.
Okay, thank you. And Barbara Saul. Hello, Barbara.
Hello.
Now, we don't know where this chat's going to go. We're just going to talk about the WordPress community and see what comes out of it. I've just read a blog post of yours. I can't remember what the exact URL was, but it was the one with the crocheted waffles. So,
oh, yeah.
So that one.
That's some time ago.
Yeah, okay. But that's good. It gives me some context anyway. How far back does your WordPress journey go? Have you been into WordPress for like a decade, or are you 2 or 3 years?
So today it might be exactly 3 years, because WordCamp Europe in Vienna 2016 was my very first one.
Okay.
So it's like it's kind of my WordPress 3rd anniversary.
Yeah. And are you a bit like me? Did you kind of like throw yourself right at it right away? Were you kind of all in?
I think I got really infected by this community bug right away.
Yeah.
Because when I joined my first WordPress event, I didn't even know what WordPress was. I was just there because my husband happens to be a software engineer and WordPress developer, and he invited me to join him to WordCamp Europe, which was happening in Vienna, which I've never been. And he dragged me there a bit kicking and screaming, because the idea of being surrounded by 3,000 nerds, I'm sorry, it didn't sound that attracting to me.
No.
So I actually had, I think I was a bit scared of getting excluded on site, because not being able to follow all the conversations going on.
Yeah.
But the exact opposite happened.
Yeah.
So I really had the most inspiring conversations, and I met amazing people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get more of this.
So you literally went with no knowledge about what WordPress was. You just sort of showed up to be supportive
exactly
to your husband, and then actually found yourself kind of interested in it, kind of by accident.
Yeah. So it was definitely the community that really amazed me.
Yeah.
So I like to say today that I joined because of the people, and I like to stay because of the people. So only afterwards I learned about the project itself and its importance, specifically for democratizing publishing around the world, and what amazing opportunity it gives people around the globe. Like, it gives you the opportunity to raise your voice, whoever you are and wherever you are located. So that's quite fantastic.
Yeah. And did you find it to be kind of like uniquely different? You know, you've obviously been in and out of social groups before, school and then work and all of that kind of stuff. Did that community on the occasion where you went and you were with your husband, did something literally sort of, a switch went off in your mind? This is different. This feels slightly unique.
Totally. I'm originally from Luxembourg, which is a very small country. And I was living kind of a boring life before. Like, I was working for the government, and I was doing a day-to-day job, which I didn't actually like, where I didn't find a challenge. But this is pretty much how I was raised, and this is pretty much how all my friends were raised. Like, everything, like, the most important thing in life would be security, safety, but there is no such a thing in life. So that's what I learned afterwards. And meeting all these people from different countries from all over the world, because that's how I see WordCamp Europe. It's like the biggest family the biggest family get together inside WordPress from all over the world. Meeting all these people who suddenly talked about remote work and like digital nomads and like switching careers, like even in a higher age, and totally discovering new career path, or not even professionally. I mean, I also met a lot of people who were just fulfilling dreams which were more kind of a hobby, and then they found their passion. And that was really new to me. And I was already on sabbatical when I joined WordCamp Europe, because I got sick after a decade of working in a job which didn't fulfill me at all. And I knew at that point what I didn't want to do anymore, even if I didn't have a plan B. But I was privileged enough to say, okay, I'm just going to take a sabbatical
Yeah.
and see where it brings me. And then in that exact moment, I got in touch with the WordPress community.
That's
so
a nice coalescence, a meeting of two things at the same
Yeah.
time. It's kind of, I don't know the word coincidence or destiny or something. You know, it feels like it was just there at the right moment. So what was it? Can you actually look back and sort of say, okay, it was a particular moment, it was one thing that somebody said, or it was, I don't know, a talk that I heard, or several people surrounding me, or just, look, there's people talking about these subjects, these remote working opportunities, and you thought, this is it, this is me, I can make use of this.
Yeah, I actually think it's more of the last thing you said. So there wasn't a particular moment, but it was me, like from the very first minute on, feeling included. And yeah, that was not what I expected. So I was the one traveling there with some kind of prejudices in my head. And so there was prejudice, and there was this fear of getting excluded, which is not something I want to experience, which is something that nobody actually wants to experience. And so I was really, I was so much of an imposter going there that I didn't even dare to attend the talk, because I felt like, oh my God, if I'm gonna go and enter a session, and if I'm gonna sit there and somebody next to me is gonna talk to me, they are gonna find out that I have no clue about technical stuff, and then I'm gonna feel stupid or whatsoever. And this is exactly not what happened. So I felt like welcomed and included from the very first minute. And yeah, that's not something that happened to me in my life every time. And I wanted also to learn more about the efforts behind that made the community wanting to be as inclusive. So I actually think now, 3 years later, that I mean, I love that there's so much effort put into this of being a welcoming and inclusive community. So now, 3 years later, I know there's still things to improve, and I think there's a trap coming with this, that a lot of people like myself, they see the efforts, they feel included, and then they think, okay, that's enough. There's already so much effort going on. That's enough. We don't have to we don't have to strive for improvement in this area, and so that's me getting more critical now after 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's an up and down sort of journey, isn't it? But just going back to maybe we'll come to that, but just going back to the bit earlier where you spoke about attending the conference. I've interviewed a lot of people in the last 3 weeks about WordCamps, in attendance of WordCamps, because we've done this little podcast series. We've done 15 episodes about WordCamps. I've never heard a story about somebody going to WordCamp not knowing what it was, so that makes you really unique. But that's really interesting. So you showed up and you kind of had this impression that it would be, I don't know, full of nerds who were like unwelcoming and who would probably turn their backs on you and want to talk to the other people. And you just found it to be completely different.
Almost the exact opposite.
Yeah, a bunch of like, I want to say normal people, but I don't believe that's true. I think it's full of extraordinary people.
Exactly.
Who are very generous and kind. And I still don't have a handle on that. I don't know why that is, but it is that way.
And that was my experience as well. So I turned up. I felt a bit awkward. I didn't really have much to... And to be honest with you, that's still the case for me. If I go into half these talks, I don't have a clue.
Good to hear.
Yeah. But there's no fear there. You don't need to worry too much about it. So then did you, after your initial experience, it all just ramped up really quickly for you? WordPress, from what I read on your blog,
Totally.
WordPress kind of took a real... like the front seat of your life for a bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Do you want to go through that?
Yeah, let's keep it short.
Yeah.
It was a crazy ride. That's true. So when I came back from WordCamp Europe in Vienna 2016, as I told you, I wanted to get more of this inspiration in my life. So I checked. So my husband told me there's a website where you can check where there's other events, WordPress events going on, and that's what I did. So I was checking what's the nearest one, what's the next one which is near to us, and then I signed myself and my husband up to become volunteers for WordCamp Frankfurt. So we went there, and that was my first time volunteering. And then we went to WordCamp Cologne, which is about 1 hour's drive from where we live. And that was the first time that I joined a contributor day. So that was difficult because me attending a contributor day, again, feeling like an imposter and like, okay, there's probably nothing I can do. And at the end of the day, I had translated a theme which was committed the same day, and I joined discussions to create a new type of WordCamp, which is WordCamp Retreat, which happens for the first time last year here in Germany in Soltau, and which is about to happen again next year. So that was my first step of becoming an organizer myself. And then I started co-organizing WordCamps. I volunteered at every WordCamp that I have been visiting afterwards. And then I think one of the biggest events for me was exactly 1 year later again at WordCamp Europe. So WordCamp Europe seems to be a turning point for me all over again. When I got asked to be an MC for WordCamp Europe in Paris. And that was really a challenge for me because my English wasn't that good at that point, and I am always trying to improve that. And so I had to. I was emceeing 2 half days in Paris, and I was quite visible because of that. Because in the meantime, I started wearing a purple hat, which I was wearing the first time at WordCamp London, where I was also volunteering, and they had top hats on the design of their volunteer T-shirts. And I noticed that the purple hat was so great for networking because a lot of people just stepped by and said, "I love your purple hat," and then we started to have conversation. And so I was WordCamp Europe in Paris on stage for quite a while, and then I had 2 companies reaching out for me to ask me if I would like to work with them because I was so active inside the WordPress community and so visible, and they wanted somebody to help them to get more involved inside the WordPress community in the right way. Because we all know open source communities, sometimes it's tricky when you have a product that is connected to the project. Sometimes people might be suspicious about, oh, they show up now, what do they want from us? And that's not the case. So they wanted somebody to help them. And then I decided to give Flask a chance and to work with them as their WordPress community ambassador, which I did for almost 2 years. And I had an amazing ride. And then all of a sudden, I was able to travel WordCamps all around the world.
Yeah. So suddenly you're like international flights all over the place attending these events.
Yeah. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Really amazing. I know this is completely tangential and nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I know that dogs are a big part of your life.
Yes.
You like dogs?
Yeah, they're my family.
Yeah. Do you take them?
Not when we're flying. So when we're flying, they're usually with my mother-in-law in Luxembourg. And so when we can drive to WordCamps, we take them with us. So they are here now in the hotel and or probably outside with my husband having a walk. And they visited WordCamps in 4 countries, if I am not mistaken. So
Is that normal? Would you be allowed to attend a conference with dogs? Is that a WordCamp?
Well, they're just a different kind of baby, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really. So you
Isn't
can
it
bring
great?
your
It's
children,
family,
so you
right?
can bring your fur babies.
Yeah. Somebody told me
Absolutely.
that you've got like a, I don't know what the right word is. It what do they
a
call
buggy.
it? Yeah, a buggy with
That's one of my dogs who's is getting quite old and he has some health issues. So we bought him a buggy because we want to take him with us, and he's fine. I mean, he can walk and stuff, but he cannot walk as long as the other two. So and we want to have him with us, but also we don't want to disadvantage the other dogs who need a lot more of activity. So to keep this in a way that every dog gets what they need, we have a buggy now. But to come back to your initial questions, it's not like dogs are specifically allowed at WordCamps. And for example, here now, they are with us in the hotel, but I'm not bringing them to the conference. Because, so first of all, it's 3,000 people. It's nothing that any dog would probably enjoy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but also there are people who might have allergies and stuff. So this is nothing that I would actually recommend people to do. But what we are doing is we're having him with us at the hotel. So all activities around, they're coming with us, and there's not 3,000 people at one point. And for the smaller WordCamps that we've been visiting, there were WordCamps where we actually took them with us to the conference rooms as well, when it was clear that no attendee had an allergy, or being scared is also an important topic. There are people who had made bad experiences with dogs. And so it depends. But also we've been visiting WordCamps where they were just around and outside at the areas, and not at the conference itself.
Yeah, we were talking earlier to somebody who had been organising the kid camp. I think I've got that right. But it's just like another interesting feature, you know. You're allowed to bring your children. It's encouraged. Nobody bats an eyelid when you bring your dogs. I was wondering about the purple hat, you know, it being a kind of like a, what did you say? I can't remember the right word, but you said it kind of enabled people to walk up to you and
it was great for networking.
Bring on a conversation. I wondered if the dogs had the same effect.
Absolutely. So for the first WordCamp, after WordCamp Europe in Frankfurt, I think they were the stars, and they became like the unofficial mascots for the German WordPress community very quickly. So people love them. And also what I noticed is that there are people who sometimes feel overwhelmed being at conference, especially when they are introverted. And I had few situations where people who were exactly this kind of who were a bit anxious to be around so many people, spend a lot of time with the dogs, like patting them, hugging them, and it made them feel comfortable. And it was pretty good to see, so that my dogs were contributing to this.
Yeah. Dog contribution.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't know if there's like any medical data about this, but my understanding is that if you stroke pets often and for long amounts of time, you are generally like a more calm and relaxed person.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
It is true, yes. Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. I think they have actually proven it. So, I certainly feel calmer for having the cats fall asleep on me and not move for several hours, you know.
I have guinea pigs.
Oh,
I have two
sweet.
guinea pigs. And we stroke them every day.
You give them a good cuddle as well.
Yeah.
So,
and if you stroke them for long enough, I don't know if you've ever had guinea pigs, they emit this amazing sound.
They do, don't they?
I'm not going to try to emit the amazing sound, but as soon as they start emitting that sound, everybody in our house gathers round because it's quite a spectacle. Oh, it's lovely. There's a big side of you, if I'm getting this correct, which is into, and forgive me, I'm going to have to let you lead on this, kind of like yoga, well-being side of things. Is that a big part of your life? Do you bring any of that stuff with you here?
Yeah, since let's say since 2 months, it's a very important part of my life, because I stepped back from my professional relationship now inside the WordPress community, and also from active contributing, because I felt like I needed a break. Like, so I struggled with depression for, let's say, for almost 2 decades, and I think I kind of burned out inside the community, because I tend to. So, you probably have felt some of my enthusiasm for the community during the past 20 minutes we're talking. And when I am enthusiastic about something, I tend to really dive very deeply and quickly into something. And so that's pretty much what happened. So that's one part, but the other part is also that I had to deal with some very unpleasant situations during the past year inside the community, and which showed me that not everything is just as great as it may seem in the beginning, and I had a hard time to deal with that. So it took me a few months to realize that I had an inner conflict going on inside me, and that this was kind of the Kickstarter for a new depressive episode. And so I decided at some point to get, after 3 years of involvement, to take a break, to step back a bit, and to focus on my own health. And so how am I going to do this? So I started to take a course on MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. And I signed up for an online course with the founders of this kind of therapy in the US. And this is an 8 weeks course, so I am almost at the end now. So I learned meditating, and I learned about the positive effects it has on me struggling with depressive episodes, on me struggling with anxiety, on me struggling with feeling insecure. And it has done great things for me. And I felt like, so in the beginning, me sitting, I'm loud. I like to move, and me sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes, being quiet in the same position, was like, what the heck is this gonna do for me? I cannot even do that for 2 minutes, and I couldn't even do that for 2 minutes in the beginning. But I get the feeling, and this is something I read, it's like a muscle that you are training. So the more you do it, the more intense it gets, the more long you do it, the more you are able to disconnect, the more the benefits are for you, and the more easier it gets. And it was so very helpful to me. And I was combining that with yoga. And yoga, I fell in love with it at the first time I tried it. So I was doing that with a group of women in the town that I'm living. And I immediately fell in love. And I'm also doing that on a regular basis at home. So at the moment, I have an injury. So you can see that by hearing the podcast. So I have an injury which kind of limits me on how I am going to sit for my meditation and how I am going to do yoga. And it is a bit challenging already. And I'm only doing that for 2 months, because being here at WordCamp Europe is a bit challenging for me, because I took my distance, and because of things that specifically happened to me at this event last year, or let's say in between. And I am already missing it. Like, I feel like I'm not 100% in my balance. And this is an effect after 2 months, and that's hilarious. And also, I really started to take care of my diet again, and really eat in a healthy way. And I started running. And that's also a new thing for me, because I am not a person who was into sports. So I never was into sports, and specifically not into running, because for me it was like, what's the interest? I'm a competitive person. So I was like, what's the interest? Like, running alone in the forest, and where's the competition? So what's going on there? And it's super boring. So on my bucket list, like, running was very, very, very on the low end, right next to meditation. And then I started running, and now this is of course there's also a break now because of the injury, but running is also very meditative to me. So having all these activities combined, and having found, fortunately, a great therapist, is helping me so much getting out of the depressive episode that I had to cope with since last summer.
Yeah, I was wondering, I don't know, Barbara, maybe you can speak more about this than I can rather. I'm just wondering how, you've found real help for yourself in yoga and meditation and running. I wonder how many people strike the right thing the first time.
Yeah.
You don't hit on yoga, you hit on something which wasn't yoga, which wouldn't have worked out for you, and eventually you get to yoga. It's great that you got it the first time. And do you feel that life is returning to its normal, the way it was, maybe let's go back a year and a month? Does it feel a little bit more like balance is being restored?
I think it's feeling better, to be honest. So I always say, I think one of the privileges that we have as human beings is that we are able to evolve. And me standing here now is a total different Carole that you would have be able to meet 5 years ago, and I hope it's going to be a different Carole you're going to meet in 5 years at some event. And I have the strong feeling that this episode in my life is a very, very important one. And that doesn't say that every day is an easy one. Also, while arriving here, I had a tough time the first day. I had like some kind of an anxiety crisis, which I didn't even know that could affect me in the way it did. But the difference is that having this difficult situation to struggle with, and combining it with mindfulness practices and being aware what is happening and not fighting against, but just acknowledging what is happening and to dive into it, so to be able to let it go afterwards, that was a new experience to me. And I was overwhelmed when I arrived here, and then I was going back to my room and I was lying there, and then also there was the injury, and I was like a bit kind of, yeah, I don't say that word, but I was laying in my bed, and I said to my husband, I feel like I don't want to be here. I have my car here, I have my dogs, I want to take my car and my dogs and just drive back home. And that's how I felt. But then I was able to realize, okay, what's going on here now? And I applied some mindfulness practices, and I realized what was happening, and I could accept it. And I was also able to tell myself, this is gonna pass. And it did. And then I was able to go out again and to meet all the people I was looking forward to meeting for weeks and months, and 100% enjoying it. And I was super proud because I was also aware of what I just did, and I was super proud that I managed the situation in such a healthy way. And that's the thing, like when you are struggling with depression, when you're struggling with anxiety, when you're struggling with, so many issues that can affect your mental health or your physical health, most of them, it's not about fighting them, and it's not like there's going to be a pill or a specific therapy that it's gonna heal you forever. That's not the thing. It's going to be part of my life, but I am getting better and better and better in dealing with it, and that's my number one priority right now, and that should be my number one priority in the years to come, and that should be everybody's number one priority, because there's nothing ever more important than your own health.
What a nice story. That's really nice. I have nothing else to say.
I'm speechless. I think one of the things that I absolutely love about you, Carole, is that you do inspire at whatever you're doing. So coming along to a WordCamp as somebody who has no idea about WordPress, I can remember we came into the community at a similar time, and I volunteered for WordCamp London, thinking I have to talk to people, with all of these geeks and nerds who really don't want me to be there because I don't know anything. I just throw some websites together. But then you were there as well in one of those early WordCamps, and I thought, okay, and you're breaking down the barriers for other people, that they see you and they think, oh, I can come too, and I'm welcome in this community too. And now, we're just getting used to the whole thing about mindfulness and wellness and looking after ourselves, and it's okay to do that. And you're there as well. You're there again, talking openly about it and how it's helped you, and it's just amazing.
Thank you so much
awesome.
for this feedback. I have to give you a hug later.
You can give her a
Big
now
one.
if you like. Okay, so the typical story is not that, is it? We get this sort of like, it's plain sailing. It's always going to be a flat line. It just doesn't go up. But that's not life, is it? You've got a perfect encapsulation in just a 2 or 3 year period of how it can, it travels up and it travels down. And it feels, from everything that you've just said, it feels like you're gaining some resolution on that.
Yeah.
And you're feeling like within the last day or two, in fact, you've made great strides, and you're feeling like you want to be here again.
Yeah, I do. And it's I'm totally fine with also inside this community that there are ups and downs. And so at the moment, I don't feel like I want to be professionally involved. And that's okay, because that's one of the reasons, besides meeting all the people that I wanted to see, that I wanted to find out about, is there going to be future, let's say in the next weeks or months. So I don't feel like this is going to happen very soon for me, because it's early. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to be involved. Like I said earlier, I joined because of the people, and I want to stay because of the people. So I don't have hard feelings that my ride was crazy and amazing. And now there was a period which was more difficult for me. But like you said, that's life. And I also think that, now let me rephrase that.
Okay.
I always invite people around me when I was a teenager already, who knew exactly what they wanted to become when they were 14 or 15 or 16 years old. And I always thought there's something wrong with me that I don't know that.
Oh.
And I thought the majority of people know that they are meant to become a doctor or a pilot or a mechanic or whatsoever. I never had that, and I'm not having that now. And today, and this is because of the experiences I made in my life, including this one, I know my thing is not becoming a specific a type of profession. I'm a human being. My thing is reinventing myself every now and then. So I think it is important for me, and this might be true for other people as well, to regularly step back, to move forward, to reevaluate your own priorities, to evaluate your own values, to be able to evolve and to become the person you're meant to be. You're not meant to be a doctor. You're not meant to be a pilot or whatsoever. I want to become the best of the person that I could be, and
Best you.
It's a great realization, though. It's a really wonderful thing to suddenly understand about yourself.
Yeah, I only realized that in the past weeks. Like, this is not something that I knew 1 year ago.
That's really liberating.
It is.
Takes the weight off.
It is totally liberating.
Yeah,
because I don't
nice.
feel anymore that there's something wrong with me, that I don't know what I want, where I want to be next year.
Do you know if WordPress, like I've heard say that at this, not WordPress, sorry, WordCamp, I've heard say that somewhere here in this building is some nod or they've set up some sort of yoga thing or well-being thing. I haven't had a chance to see it. Is there something along those lines? Have you checked any of that stuff out?
Yeah, I know it is happening, but I absolutely wanted to do the yoga, but because of the injury I didn't go. And for the meditation, I was more doing that for myself, but I loved that it got realized this year. So last year when I was in the organizing team, we talked about that when the event was already over, it was not the point to introduce that. So I talked to that with another organizer who is still on the team, and I think we were talking about this at WordCamp Brighton, and so I was so happy to see that this got realized this year, even if I didn't actively participate. But that was mostly due to the injury I had. And for example, one of the sessions is currently going. I think now it's Jenny Beaumont with meditation. So I am here with you now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't be. I'm totally enjoying it.
And you're going to go, I think, Barbara.
I'm going to go along
later.
to the mindfulness one, which
Rafaela, yeah.
I want to understand more, and I know Rafaela as well. So that will be really interesting. So I'm going to write it up and then see if we can take that into the UK a bit more as well, and to London perhaps. So we'll see.
You will enjoy that.
Or maybe I should just go and enjoy it for myself.
Yeah, maybe. Well, and then think about it after the fact.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Indeed.
think about it after the fact.
Win-win.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
for
think
having
this was
me.
a really, really interesting discussion, but also, like, I love your story. I love the, the sort of the up and the down and the way that you've handled it recently, and I'm so glad that feeling the way you are in these last few
Thank
weeks.
you. I totally appreciate it.
Good.
Thanks
I'm
for
glad.
having me. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Good.
One of the purposes of the Press Forward podcast is to lift the lid on topics that don't get talked about enough. to allow people to share their stories so that others might listen, and by listening, they may gain an understanding that they're not alone. There are other people out there who have faced the same situations that you are facing. They have found a way through and can offer support to you on your journey. Maybe that person is already in your life, but they might not be, and that's what WP Up is here for, to connect you with the support that you need. The Press Forward podcast is brought to you today by Green Geeks. Green Geeks offers a specially engineered platform that gives WordPress users web hosting that is designed to be the fastest, most secure and scalable hosting available in multiple data centers. Their WordPress hosting makes deploying and managing WordPress websites easy with automatic one-click install, managed updates, real-time security protection, SSD RAID 10 storage arrays, Power Cacher, and expert support 24 hours a day to make for the best web hosting experience. And we thank Green Geeks for helping us put on the Press Forward podcast. That's it for this week. Please let us know if you're enjoying the podcast, if you're finding it useful or helpful. You can reach out to us at wpandup.org/contact. Remember that there's a serious point to all this though, and that is that WP Up is here to provide help and support. That help is available to you or people you know, and can be easily accessed at the wpandup.org website. Please spread the word about this new podcast, tell your friends, and subscribe on your favourite podcast player. And remember that together we can #press forward.